Hello guys, this is Jessica here behind the camera and Isabelle up front, bringing you a Sculpt on the floor workout. No gliders necessary, we're just working mat work today. If you have 3 to 5 pound weights, grab those as well for a little arm work at the end. If you do not, you're welcome to grab 2 filled water bottles or canned goods, or get creative. We're gonna start in a high plank today. So go ahead and take your palms about shoulders distance apart. Find a lift in the heels. Energetic length from head to tail. Feel the navel pulling it up towards your spine. Consider a soft micro bend of the elbows and glide the shoulder blades down the back of the rib cage. Now we're going to take a modified plank to pike. So you're going to use your exhale. Keep the toes and the palms rooted where they are as you lift the pelvis up to the sky. And then use your 4 count inhale to lengthen back out into that high plank with control. So now, keeping the neck in line with the spine, you're welcome to drop your gaze down between your ankles every time you slowly lift the hips up to the sky. I want you to truly get in touch with that 4 count breath cycle, that 4 count tempo here. Start taking that breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and use each exhale to hollow out that space right between the hip bones to deepen the navel in and up towards the spine. Beautiful. We are taking another high plank. We hold it in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So now we're going to transition into a slow motion mountain climber. So we exhale, pull one knee in, and then alternate the other. Now I want you to take your focus on the pelvis here. How do we minimize that weight shift side to side? Maybe you start feeling a little work in the obliques to minimize that weight shift, keeping the square box of the torso, that rib to hip connection. Meanwhile, shoulders are continuing to press down away from your ears. Soft micro bend of the elbows. We are setting up an all fours position, taking you right into a cat-cow. We'll make that transition. It's all fours in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So take a second if you need to. Roll those shoulders back, circle the wrists each direction if that feels right, and then we'll get to it when you're ready. I want you to use the exhale to round the spine, reaching the back bottom ribs up to the sky, dropping your gaze down. And then inhale, top of the head and the tailbone reach up to the sky, getting a nice abdominal stretch, front body opener here. And then as you open the collarbones, feel that gentle pull of the shoulder blades via low trapezius, creating that V down the back of the rib cage each time. Good. And as you see, Isabelle's doing a slight curl of the tailbone under, really finding more and more length between the tailbone and the back bottom ribs, each rounded C-curve shape she takes with each 4 count exhale she takes. Now, you can continue in this range of motion. Probably feels really good as most of us are sitting a lot more than usual these days with the added screen time. If you'd like to add a little more core action, tuck the toes under. As you round the spine, do a little lift of the knees up. Beautiful. And then drop the knees. Flare the sits bones back, open the collarbones. And it's like the scoop of the abdominals just elevates, floats the waist up to the sky, and the knees just have to follow each time. And then inhale, take it back. We are going to meet together in a forearm plank in just a moment. Forearm high plank. Forearms are down on the mat, shoulders distance apart. Lining up your elbows underneath the shoulders. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1. So find the forearm plank. Take the gaze roughly between the wrists. Now, this is a modified saw. So you're going to lift and lower the heels, which is going to shift your shoulders slightly forward and slightly back of the elbows. So we're challenging upper abdominal core stability. So really focus on maintaining the knit of the ribs. If you start to ever feel a little crunch in the low back, lift the pelvis up just a hair. Reestablish that energetic length in the low back, or just like reaching the tailbone away from back bottom ribs. And when you're not checking the screen for the video, try to keep the gaze once again right between your forearms. Continue to find that energetic length from tail to head. Make sure you're still breathing. Let's use the inhale to lift the heels. Use the exhale to reach the heels towards the wall behind you. We are finishing up with a seated crunch. So you're gonna take a seat. Feet are on the mat, knees bent roughly 90 degrees. Let's find our seated crunch position, sitting on the mat in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, sitting on the mat. From here, let's reach our arms up, and then on your exhale, start to reach your fingertips forward as you deepen the abdominals, reach the rib cage back in space, and then deepen lowest abdominals. Rock the pelvis back up to vertical, stacking the ribs and shoulders on top. So we exhale, deepen around, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Inhale, ground, sits bones. Lengthen the spine out of the pelvis, up to the sky. As you reach the fingertips up to the ceiling, I want you to feel the shoulder blades slide down the back in opposition of this spine lift extension. So every time you take this rounded spine, I want you to curl the tailbone under and allow the hip flexors to go slack. And then let the abdominals pull the ribs back over the pelvis, simply deepening the hip crease. So we add this rounded spine versus a flat back in an effort to keep this more in the abdominals and out of the hip flexors. So let that be a focus or goal as we work gorgeous posture, yes. All right, we're gonna get started with your squats in a moment. So we're gonna pop back up to a standing position. I said back up, we haven't stood up yet. We're gonna stand up tall in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So shake out what you need. Bring the feet parallel, just a little wider than your hips. Nice. And then, you know what to do. Shift the tailbone back. There's a slight pitch forward of the spine to counterbalance that weight shift. Feel the drive down through heels, glutes, and hamstrings as you lift. And you can take whatever arm movement variation that feels good to you. If you want to get a little more motion in the shoulders, you can do the first version as well. Reach your fingertips forward as you center hips back. If you want to really zero in on the work of the glutes and hamstrings, then you can find a more stationary position of the arms as you work. And yes, this was already showing you on the video, but you want to find that oppositional lift of the abdominals pulling away from the thighs, each forward pitch of the spine you take. And clearly the weight is shifted back into the heels. And then just as we work this range of motion, here and always, give the upper body just a little check-in. Even the jaw, make sure we're not holding tension we don't need. And then neck, the jaw, the upper traps here. Upper body is just calm but powerful posture right on top. And then once more, I'll just remind you of your breath cue here. You're gonna inhale to shift it lower. 2, 3, and 4. Then you exhale as you drive down through heels, glutes, and hamstrings and lift. We're setting up for a lateral lunge in just a moment. Easy enough transition. To start, all I'm gonna have you do is open your feet wider than they are currently on the mat, and we'll simply bend into that left knee for your lateral lunge. Let's do it. Open those feet a little wider in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So take those feet out. Now, so similar to your squat, only we only bend the one knee. So this weight still shifts back into that left heel. Tailbone reaches back. There is a slight pitch forward to find a counterbalance. Then drive down through heel, glute, and hamstring to lift. Depending on where you are tight today, you might even experience a slight stretch in the right inner thigh. So maybe appreciate that. And then again, just like your squat we just did. There is this pitch forward of the spine to counterbalance the weight shift back into that left heel. With that pitch forward of the spine, find that oppositional lift of the abdominals, pulling away from your left thigh, never allowing them to quite get lost to gravity here. I want you to continue breathing. Inhale, head to tail length. Every time you take that lateral lunge, that you bend into your left leg.
There is a repeat, and it just goes on.
And then relax those shoulders, keep the collarbones open, do all the things. We are going to take this lateral lunge and hold it in 4, 3, 2. So find a place you can hold. Deepen the abdominals, shift the weight back just a hair extra. We're going to keep the pelvis low, right where it is. We're going to take an alternating lateral lunge. So working this horizontal plane, shift over to the right leg. And then we stay low slowly, taking it over to the left. So making it easy, make it smooth. Keep that weight shifted back into the heel and maintain length in the spine. So what I want you to be careful of is 2 things. 1, make sure you're not starting to round the spine and curl that tailbone under, dumping into the low back. And I want you to be careful about not overly flaring the hips back, arching the back, and just another version of dumping into the low back. So really try to keep those low abdominals supporting the length of the low back. So I want you to keep your sacrum in line with your lumbar spine throughout this range of motion. And you can see Isabelle's giving herself a little tactile feedback. So if you don't have a huge mirror at home, these are ways, these are tools you can check in with where you are in space. We're going to take it over to your left lateral lunge and hold again. We're taking a little cardio burst, so to speak. It's just not on a 4-count tempo. We're going to take that lateral lunge. We're going to pop it up to an elbow to knee. In 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we press off, elbow to knee. Return to that lateral lunge. Gorgeous. Exhale, rotate, twist. So, this was quite great at keeping her balance here, and I hope I haven't spoken too soon. But, just so you know, if you're losing your balance, that is the challenge. That is the work. Getting into those deep supportive muscles of the pelvis to help stabilize you, to arrive right on top of your right leg, and then take it right back down into that left lateral lunge. We're setting up your split lunge in the moment. Still working the left glute, hamstring, and quad. We're going to take a quarter turn to your left. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1. So left foot forward, right foot back. Square off ribs, hips, and shoulders. Now, from here, we bend, finding 2 90-degree bends of your knees. Keep that left knee right about over your ankle. Drive down through left quad, glute, and hamstring, and lift. Now, I want you to keep an active lift of your right heel throughout this range of motion. And then maybe think about the spine almost slides right down an invisible wall, dropping the pelvis right between the knees each time you lower down. And then as you lift up, can we find just a gentle spiral of your right hip bone forward, working to keep square ribs, hips, and shoulders throughout this range of motion. 1 square box of the torso. Nice. And then maybe, if it's helpful, even think about finding a little scissor hug of the inner thighs towards the midline of your body as you rise out of that split lunge each time, each rep. We have a low lunge. We're going to hold it, 2 90-degree bends of your knees. Let's do it in 5, 4, 3, 2. Now let's take slow, precise, controlled pulses. Pelvis down an inch, lift an inch, little lower, little lift. Keep breathing here. And yes, you should feel a little burn, a little fire in that left quad, glute, and hamstring. Maybe distract yourself from that burn by hugging in the inner thighs. Think of the opposite, lift of the abdominals away from the thigh, towards the spine. We have your free fall coming up. So we're going to shift our weight forward into the left foot on my next countdown. With a micro bend of your left knee, let's just take it in 5, 4, 3, 2. So you shift the weight forward, soften that knee. From here, we take a pitch of the spine forward. So this is really led or driven by the pelvis. The pelvis tilts. The right leg in your spine, just follow that tilt. And then you feel the left the left low recenter, find your balance for a moment before you take it right back up and over. And if you want to take an arm gesture with it, if you want to add a reach of the fingertips forward, you are welcome to. If you want to sort of send your focus, your mental energy specifically into that left glute and hamstring, then maybe find a more stationary position for your arms. Whatever you do with your arms, I want you to continue relaxing the shoulders down away from your ears, keeping the chest open, collarbones open. And now we do get a little muscle work in the back body here. So feel the shoulder blades squeeze, low traps activate as we lift that right leg up. And as you lift that right leg up, consider finding that little wrap of that right hip bone down in opposition so the hips stay square throughout this range of motion, throughout this shift of the pelvis horizontal back to vertical. We are setting up a little work for your right oblique. We're going to meet back down in a high plank. Let's do it in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we're in a high plank to start. We're working the right oblique. So your right knee is going to fold in towards your left elbow. And then inhale, lift the hips, kick the leg back. Modified downward dog position, or modified pike position, if you will. So you'll see Isabelle's doing this. She's adding a little rotation to the low body while keeping the shoulders square, keeping the weight in her palms completely even. Also, as you can see, you can add this or you can maintain this micro bend of the elbows in order to feel the triceps light up as stabilizers. Also, to continue taking a little pressure off the wrists throughout this range of motion. And then every time you take that length, that kick of the right leg back up to the sky, make sure we still practice square pelvis, get it right back in line with your ribs and your hips. We are going to meet in a forearm plank once again. So you know what to do. On my next countdown, your forearms come down to the mat, shoulders distance apart, balls of the feet on the mat as well. We're going to take a little alternating hip dip, working both obliques. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1. So shake out what you need. If you need a shoulder roll, certainly take a shoulder roll. Find your forearm plank, and then we take this little hip dip. You can take your feet together or take it hips distance, whatever feels more successful. Yeah, so play with that in your own body, see what works. It's a light oblique activation as you take a little, almost rainbow shape of the pelvis. Still same focus of keeping ribs and shoulders nice and square. And this rotation doesn't have to be big in order for you to work the obliques. So you don't have to do extra. And you also can always take the knees down to the mat to execute this little rainbow pelvis situation. Soften those shoulders away from your ears. When you're not checking the video or maybe perhaps forming a mirror nearby, try to continue keeping your gaze right between your wrists throughout this range of motion. We're going to simply take a low kneeling twisted plank and hold. Just find a moment of stillness. So on my next countdown, the only change that happens is you stack your left knee over the right. It's a low kneeling twisted plank. Let's do it. Let's breathe in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, if we were on the machine, this would be your setup for your saw or your kneeling oblique crunch. Energetically, I want you to even think about your crunch. Exactly. Finding that length in the low back, lift the abdominals, try to create, find and sustain that right rib to hip connection of that right oblique gorgeous. Make sure we're not allowing the shoulder blades to crunch together behind the back of the rib cage. So that's a little Latin serratus support. Keep with it. Let the serratus almost wrap around the rib cage, connecting into both external obliques. We're going to take this into a forearm kneeling side plank. Isabelle's going to face the sculpt wall. You're going to face your left hand's wall. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1. So it's a kneeling forearm plank. Adjust, shake out what you need. Energetic reach of the left fingertips up to the sky. We are going to thread the needle. So on your exhale, you wrap the hand around the rib cage. You bring out the spine. Inhale. How much volume can you create from your right elbow up through your left fingertips every time you reach? So think about finding expansive wingspan across the collarbones, across the chest each time. On my next countdown, we're going to set up a kneeling side kick. So continuing with work on the left oblique, a little bonus work for the left leg. Right oblique, left leg, if that's not what I said, we're going to take a high kneel, take the right palm down to the mat, lift the left leg up, parallel, let's do it. In 3, 2, and 1. So rest what you need. Find a high kneel and then take enough of a side bend to get the right palm under your shoulder. Take that left hand behind your head at the base of the neck. And then on your exhale, beautiful, float that leg lift. And then control the tap of your left toe towards the floor. Doesn't have to go all the way down towards your mat, but you can play with that range of motion. Now what's important here is that we still have this hammock of the right oblique hugging the rib cage up towards the sky. Make sure when you do that, we don't splay the rib cage open. I think that's one of the most challenging parts of this position. It's not about the gesturing leg. It's about maintaining the square box of the torso. All we did was tilt it. And then press energetically down through the right palm, lift the rib cage up. Yes, gorgeous. And then make sure we still have just enough of a curl the tailbone under to maintain length in the low back. And then we can lift for 2 and lower for 2. Now, the closer the knee is under your pelvis, the less stabilization required of that right shoulder. The more you scoot the knee out towards your left foot, the more you're in sort of a more of a modified side plank position, the more oblique work you're going to get. So play around with the position of the knee. Find a sweet spot that makes this feel beneficial and productive. We are standing back up. We are setting up your second side. First, starting with a sumo squat. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1. So pop on up, shake out what you need. This time it's a wider stance. Toes can point outward just a bit. Then, you know what to do. We shift the weight back into the heels. Let the pelvis fall through the thighs, and then drive down through heels, glutes, and hamstrings. Lift up with control. So finding a more centering exercise range of motion, get back in touch with your 4 count breath cycle. Maintaining that head to tail length, that oppositional lift of the abdominals away from your thighs. Every once in a while, even if you don't need it, just do it. Take a little shoulder roll back, a little wiggle when you need it here, or when you don't, I just said. Good, beautiful guys. So we have your lateral lunge on the second side coming up in just a moment. So we'll take the feet perhaps a little wider. You might be set up exactly where you are. You'll take the first lateral lunge. You'll make a choice about where you want your feet. Well, let's get it started on the right leg. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So maybe a little wider. Then it's like your single leg squat, shifting your weight over to the back into the left heel. Drive down to the left heel, glute, and hamstring. To rise right back up with control. So we take that weight shift back into that heel, which means we need a counterbalance pitch of the spine forward. With that counterbalance pitch of the spine forward, maintain that head to tail length, and then support that length with that constant activation, awareness of the abdominals, where they are, what they're doing, how they're supporting, how they're helping. So upper abdominals and external obliques maintain the knit of the rib cage. We have a cinch around the waistline, that's transverse. And then low abdominals, internal obliques, transverse. Find that up sweep, hollowing out that space right between the hip bones to support the pelvis throughout this range of motion. We're going to take this into your alternating lateral lunges. Let's shift that weight back into that left heel, right heel, and hold it in 3, 2, and 1. So now, we keep this pelvis on a low horizontal plane, just shifting side to side. Weight stays back into the heels. Shoulders continue to relax down away from your ears. range side to side. You might even get a little opening through the opposite inner thigh, so maybe enjoy that. And then make sure we're still working your breath here, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, softening the shoulders away from your ears. Easy, calm, powerful posture of the upper body as we work out the lower. We're gonna take that lateral lunge into a twist, elbow to knee. So we're gonna take it, shift over to your right leg, find that right lateral lunge in 3, 2, and 1. Then we take a little rotation balance and take it right back out. So we're not super symmetrical bodies usually, so this side probably maybe feels completely different than the other. Maybe you have an easier time of balancing on one leg than the other. Maybe you have a little more spine mobility and rotation on one side than the other. So maybe the first 3, you just sort of kind of get acquainted, reacquainted with how this side feels. If I were in front of the camera, you'd see that this is my challenging side, but here we are staring at Isabelle instead. Nice work. Okay, so we are taking this into our split lunge. So we're going to take a quarter turn to the right foot forward, left foot back. Good. Let's do it in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So setting up, let's find that active lift of the left heel. On your inhale, we start to slide the spine down, the pelvis drops. Find 2 90-degree bends of your knees, square ribs, hips, and shoulders. And then drive down through that right heel, glute, in hamstring, and quad, and lift all the way up. So we'll inhale to lower. And then exhale, it's like the abdominals are what lift the spine out of the legs, out of that split lunge each time. And then on this side, to maintain square ribs, hips, and shoulders throughout this range of motion, I want you to find just a gentle wrap of that left hip bone forward. Maybe it could even be helpful to think of very slightly internally rotating that left thigh. See if that kind of gives you a little bit more awareness towards your centering, your midline of the body throughout this range of motion. And then, just to check in on you at home, I want to make sure that your shoulders are relaxed. Easy neck, jaw, shoulders. Easy, proud, calm posture of the upper body. And then every time you lower the pelvis down, oppositionally pull the low abdominals in and up towards the spine. Now, of course, we continue to maintain that weight shift back into that right heel. We're going to take this split lunge and hold it in 3, 2, and 1. So take a little scan through, hug the inner thighs, wrap that left hip forward, roll those shoulders down away from your ears. We take a little pulse of the pelvis, down an inch and up an inch. Slow, controlled, precise pulses here. Mindful pulses, if you will. We have your free fall coming up in just a moment. So, simple transition. You're going to shift your weight completely over the right foot. Point the left toe behind you. Of course, we continue maintaining square ribs, hips, and shoulders. It's an easy transition. We don't need to over-talk it. Let's do it in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So square it off. Now, remember, the pelvis tilts, the spine and your left leg follow. And then we want to tighten the wrap of the low right glutes and right hamstring to bring the pelvis back up, allowing the pelvis to approach vertical. And as you can see, Isabel's maintaining a soft bend of her standing right leg. I want you to do that too, especially if you're prone to locking out the knee, or if you have a hyperextended, hypermobile knees there. Maintain that soft bend of the knee. I just also think it helps you really get in touch with what our focal muscles are working here, which is your low glutes and stabilizing right hamstring. And then as you can see, you want to maintain that oppositional lift of the abdominals away from your right thigh. Every forward fold you take. As you lift the left hamstring up, we are spiraling that left hip bone down in opposition. Breathing energetic length from head to tail throughout. We're going to meet in a high plank in a moment. We have a little work coming up for your left oblique. Let's take that transition, hands come down, step the feet back. It's a high plank in 3, 2, and 1. So this time, we exhale to bring the left knee in towards the right elbow. Inhale, hike the hips up, extend that left leg long. So find that little rotation, nice. And then inhale, breathe length from the fingertips out through that left foot. Each time you shift it up and back. Nice, guys. And you can play with the range of motion here. Find the rotation that feels supported by the abdominals and still get you that little hug, that little crunch of the left hip towards the left rib cage. Each rotation you take. So we are meeting in a forearm plank in just a moment. We have a second round of alternating hip dips. So on my next countdown, forearms come down to the mat. Both of the feet will come down to the mat. You will take it out to your forearm plank. Let's do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So shake out, roll out what you need. When you're ready, line up your shoulders over your elbows. From here, we just take a little tiny rotation of the pelvis, dropping the right and then the left. Making choices about on your toes or on your knees, but the focus is how do we isolate that rotation to the low body. So much in the shoulders here, working to stabilize. And then check in with your body. Make sure we're not crunching those shoulder blades together behind the rib cage. Think of pressing the blades broad across the rib cage, driving down through the elbows so we get a little lat and a little serratus support in the shoulder girdle. That's just going to reduce any compression later in the game. We are taking a low kneeling twisted plank. On my next countdown, you are just taking a breath, a moment of stillness. So on my next countdown, forearms stay where they are. You will stack the right knee over the left. It's a low kneeling twisted plank. Let's do it in 3, 2, and 1. So stacking one knee on top of the other, taking that gaze right between your wrists. And then this is where we would set up your low kneeling twisted crunch or your song here. So I want you to energetically set up for it. Reach the tailbone away from back bottom ribs. Find a little corset of the rib cage here. Beautiful. Yes, and then just breathe. Start to establish and then maintain that left rib to hip connection of that left oblique. We're going to open up into a kneeling side plank. All you do is quarter turn to your right, reach your right fingertips up to the sky. Let's take a kneeling side plank and hold it in 3, 2, and 1. So, reaching energetically up through the right fingertips. You can find a moment of stillness, or if you'd like, you can go right into your thread, the needle. On your exhale, when you do, I want you to wrap the hand around the rib cage. On your inhale, I want you to energetically reach the right fingertips up to the sky. And then I want you to send as much energy down into that left forearm as you send up to the sky. So really finding this oppositional reach and press. How much volume can we create across the collarbones? Can we still elevate, lift the rib cage out of the shoulder girdle, once again reducing any compression. All right, guys, so we have those kneeling side kicks coming up. Bonus work for the right glute. Bonus work for the left oblique. Let's find a high kneel and set it up together in 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, shake out what you need, roll out the shoulders, then take your right palm down to the mat. Left knee can be under your hip or a little further away. Right hand behind your hip, the base of the neck. Establish open collarbones and a knit of the rib cage. So that's even oppositional energy just there. And then you lift the leg up for 2. Lower the leg down for 2. Reaching the toe towards the mat, doesn't have to touch. That's just your energetic reach. Now, can we find a slight curl of the tailbone under here? Up sweep of the low abdominals. Think of that rib to hip connection, that square box of the torso. Find that connection. All we did was take that square box of the torso and turn it on its side here. Soften your left shoulder down away from your ear. Beautiful, yes, shoulders down, neck is long, in line with the spine. We're gonna take a little standing arm weight work. So on my next countdown, you will grab the weights, stand up nice and tall. Let's do it in 4. It's 3, 2, and 1. So grabbing the weights, we will stand tall, feet roughly hips distance, maybe a little wider. Then I want you to take first your field goal position. So find an up sweep of low abdominals and then use your exhale. We're gonna press the weights up, 2, 3, and 4. And then grow tall as you slice your elbows right back by your side. Beautiful. So, as you take this range of motion, I want you to feel support of the abdominals throughout. So, a little slight micro bend in the knees, weight shift back into the heels. You're going to feel the abdominals light up very gently, but they will as stabilizers. There's just enough of a reach down to the tailbone so that you maintain gorgeous length in the low back. And then every time the elbows slice down by your side, there's going to be an urge to splay the rib cage open. Don't let it. We're going to take this right into your tricep press. We will reach those weights up to the sky. Turn the palms to facing towards one another. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice. So, on your inhale, we slowly bend the elbows, reach the weights behind you. And then exhale, extend the arms up, isolating the work of the triceps here. And then once again, I want you to continue really focusing on core stability, spine length. So, as those elbows bend, once again, the tendency or the urge will be to splay the rib cage open or maybe even collapse in the low back. So we have to use the lowest abdominals to lift up through the front of the pelvis. We have to use the mid and upper abdominals and internal obliques to maintain that hug of the rib cage towards the midline of the body. Oh, and by the way, you're working the arms. So isolate the triceps. Don't try not to elevate the shoulders up by your ears. How do we keep this out of the neck and the upper traps as best we can? We're going to take a slight pitch forward of the spine. We're setting up your sexy back. So, feet will remain roughly hips distance apart. You'll take a little deeper bend in the knees here. We'll pitch the spine forward roughly 45 degrees. Let's do it. It's your standing sexy back in 3, 2, and 1. So slight pitch forward. Hug the elbows back behind the rib cage. Slide the blades down the back of the rib cage. On your exhale, press the arms back. 2, 3, and 4. Slowly bend the elbows. Make sure we don't allow the shoulders to roll forward as the elbows bend. So, energetically, I want you to think of externally rotating the upper arm bones in the shoulder girdle as the arms reach back. See if that helps continue. Keeping that line of the pecs nice and open, beautiful, really gorgeous. Keeping head to tail length. And of course, as you can see, Isabelle still focused on the abdominal support of the length of the spine throughout this range of motion. She's got that weight shifted back through her heels, which is already going to kind of fire up a little stabilization in the front body, which is what we want. Beautiful. So we're going to finish up your upper body work with your chest fly. So on my next countdown, you can even take the spine a little further forward, up to you. You're gonna hug a beach ball under your sternum in 3, 2, and 1. So then now, We really isolate the work of the low traps and the rhomboids to squeeze the shoulder blades as the weights elevate out to the side. Maintain that grounded position. And then inhale. Hug the weights back into almost that beach ball shape. Good, that's it, yes. And even as the arms round forward, I want you to make sure you don't let the shoulders follow suit. So there's still a little work happening in the rhomboids, in the muscles between the shoulder blades. Even as you close the arms, you want to maintain that space across the front of the chest you just created. So it's like, how do we isolate the return of the arms without letting the collarbones collapse forward each time you take it. So we're going to finish up with an explosive push-up. This is a new exercise for me. Isabelle taught it to me. So it begins in a downward dog position. I won't cue it, but mostly look at Isabelle. We're going to place the weights to the side, return back down to a downward dog position in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, place those weights down. Get yourself set up as you need, bringing your tailbone towards your heels when you're ready. Walking the hands out, and then from here, you will exhale, press out, take a push-up right here, and then reach the tailbone back to your heels, returning in. Now, you can take whatever tempo that makes sense for you in this moment. If you want to stay in that 4 count, mindful controlled tempo, you are welcome to. But we called it an explosive push-up, so maybe just by the title of it, you decide to take the tempo up just a notch. I want you to continue breathing throughout this range of motion. I want you to exhale to press out. Inhale to return back in each time. Keeping the neck in line with the spine throughout this range of motion. In these push-ups, we want to keep the shoulder blades broad on the back of the rib cage and pressing down away from your ears. We are going to take that child's pose back and hold it in 3, 2, and 1. So take a second here. Allow the weight of the head to fall heavy between the upper arms as you release the tailbone towards your heels. Let's hang out here for another second. Send an expansive breath into the abdominals, into the pelvis. And then exhale, let that go. And then send a deep breath into the rib cage and the shoulders. And then exhale, allow that to release. From here, on your next exhale, begin curling the tailbone, rolling up, bringing the spine up to vertical. Let's step our left foot forward or shimmy that right knee back. We're going to take a little stretch for your right hip. So, breathing into that, you can take your hands down to the mat, bring your hands onto your knee, whatever feels like it gives you something productive as far as stretching out your hips are perhaps a little extra tight these days, so give yourself a moment, really breathe into it. If you like the side bend, take the side bend, reaching your right fingertips up, which should increase the length of your psoas, plus gets a little stretch of the obliques. Make sure that left shoulder is still relaxed down away from your ear. And then when you're ready, let's go ahead and take a hamstring stretch, shifting the weight back. Keeping a micro bend to that left knee. Reaching your left sits bone back as you reach your left hip forward in opposition. And then maybe even thinking of flaring the sits bones back so you get a little deeper into that stretch-like sensation. And then let's take one more expansive breath, maybe send that back into the pelvis once again. And then exhale, let it go. And when it feels right, you can take that left knee down to the mat, take your right foot forward. Shifting that weight over the right heel. Taking a moment to breathe into the left hip, left psoas. And you can play with it too, maybe spiraling that left hip forward a little bit or opening up a little bit might change your sense of stretch. Find what you need, find what feels productive, and then breathe into it. And if you'd like to add a side bend here, you're welcome to lift that left hand up. Side bend over towards the right. Sending expansive breaths into the left side of the rib cage. This should not only increase the length of the line of the psoas, but of course get into obliques, maybe even lats here. And then when it feels like you've got what you need out of that, you can shift back into your hamstring stretch. And then I want you to try to think about that kind of oppositional pull and push. Think of reaching your right sits bone back as you reach the right hip forward. And then maybe at the bottom of this, think of flaring the sits bones back like you would in your cat-cow, and just see if that helps to open up upper hamstring, low glute just a little bit more. Take what feels good, and then breathe into it. Maybe sending one more expansive breath into the base of the pelvis. Exhale, let it go. All right, we're gonna step your right leg back to join your left, sorry. We're gonna take a downward dog position for just a moment. And then start to walk those feet out, grabbing one heel at a time. If it feels like a little wiggle of the hips feels good, you can take that. And you can start to take that by bringing your feet towards your hands. Let's open the feet about hips distance apart. Find a micro bend of your knees. Grab onto the opposite elbow. Now, check in. Make sure you're truly allowing the weight of the head to fall heavy. Let the weight of the head help decompress your spine for a moment. And then, if it feels good, you can take that decompressed spine into a little sway side to side. And then when you're ready, let's settle center. Take your hands back down to the mat. Let's all deepen the bend of your knees, reaching your hips down. And then drive through the heels, a little stretch up. One more time, knees will take a bend. And then from here, on your next exhale, begin to curl the tailbone under, roll the spine up for 5, lifting, 4, 3, 2, eyes up on 1, one more shoulder roll back. I appreciate you and I appreciate you joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in your day. And we hope to connect soon with you virtually. We hope even more to connect face to face. Until then, stay healthy, take care.